At this time, I want to introduce Tulaine Montgomery, our own YouthBuild USA board member. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is so good to see all of your faces. Lex, first, I just want to acknowledge you, sir. I mean, look, you are holding the space beautifully. It is not easy to do on this virtual world that we're in, and you're bringing love and skill and energy. And so I commend you and just want to lift you up and honor you. Thank you. And I apologize that they sent you that long bio. I did not want you to have to go through all of that, but thank you for persevering. I appreciate you.
We give roses when it's needed.
It's a live show, I like to say. I'm a writer and a playwright, and it's a live show, you know, and we just have to adjust to the things that come our way. Speaking of that, I'm changing my background because it was getting a little creepy, the blur in the background. It wasn't working for me. So first, I just want to say that I am genuinely honored and excited to be with you all today. I truly am. I recognize that this is a special, powerful, and precious gathering of young leaders, innovators. You all are courageous, brilliant, and brave. And so I'm really honored to spend time with you. It's a gift that I don't take for granted. I want to let you know a little bit about my YouthBuild story. So as Lex mentioned, I currently serve on YouthBuild USA's National Board of Directors, but my first touch point with YouthBuild was actually working on the staff team, leading the graduate and alumni department. And I remember when I was with Dorothy Stoneman, who many of you know. I actually had a wonderful conversation with Dorothy yesterday, and she, as always, sends her love. She was excited to know I would be with you today. And I remember when Dorothy Stoneman first introduced me to one of the leaders, alumni leaders in the movement, Annette Goodrich. I don't know, I might be dating myself. How many folks? Okay, Lex, I see your thumb up, right? And let me tell y'all, I mean, hopefully y'all can see me on the Zoom. Dorothy was doing what Dorothy does, and with love and enthusiasm, introducing me because I was excited to serve as part of the YouthBuild movement. And Annette, who is now one of my dearest friends, at the time, her first reaction to me was, she gave me the look. Hopefully y'all can see the look. She said she looked at me from the top, she looked me down to the bottom, she looked me back up again, and she said, "Who are you?" And the reason I share that story, and Annette and I now laugh about that to this day, because she is truly my sister in the movement. But I think that's important, because what that taught me from the beginning of my time with YouthBuild is it taught me that Annette knew her worth and the worth and power of this movement that you all have built together. And, I'm going to talk with you for a little while about, knowing your worth, right? Knowing that you are worthy of being what my elders would say, discerning meaning that you don't just sort of go for what anybody offers you, that you make decisions about who you choose to be with, what you will accept, who you will trust, and where you will go, that you are the leader of your own life in that way. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But that was my first interaction. And, I had the privilege of working with folks who I believe are friends and mentors to many of you. Mike Dean, that's my brother, Antonio Ramirez, B. Sweet, Eli Flores. These are all folks who I've worked with, struggled with, learned with, and served with. And so again, I come to this from a long history of being part of the YouthBuild movement. And when they say once in YouthBuild, always in YouthBuild, as you can tell, they mean it, because this has been happening for a long time. So let's start with what I want for you. I mentioned I want you to know your worth and to really live like leaders who know your worth. I also want you to have peace in your life. And that doesn't mean that we live in a peaceful world or a peaceful time. We don't. We all know that. But I want you to have peace in your life. And so because that's what I want for you, I need to say to you that peace is expensive. You know what I mean? And when I say expensive, I don't necessarily mean that it costs cash, but it takes a word I love, vigilance. It means you have to focus on peace every day, and you have to every day do something that's about making sure that you have peace in your life. And when you sort of take your eye off that ball, conflict and confusion can make its way in. And so, because I want you to have peace in your life, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I believe are some of the things that we need to do if we are people who want to have peace. So one thing I think about is, I know that I have peace when my personality matches up with my purpose. And by personality, I mean the thoughts I think, the actions I take, the things I do, the things I choose not to do. When my personality, when the way I show up in my life day to day, when that matches with my purpose, what I feel called to do, that's when I have peace. I have struggle, conflict, depression, sadness when I'm acting in a way that doesn't match with my purpose. So I want you all to think for a moment about, what is your purpose? What are you called to do? All of you have committed to leadership and service, right? You've all committed to do everything that you can with this time you have and this gift you have to make the world better than it is now, and to create opportunities for people besides just yourself. That already makes you remarkable, right? We can see in the world around us that it's not everybody who's decided to think about someone other than themselves. Give a shout out in the chat if you would agree with that, right? If that resonates for you, if that speaks to your heart when I say that, let me know, since we're in this, virtual world. I can't see your eyes as much as I would like to. So you've already made a bold, courageous decision, right? So it's important to get as clear as you can, I would offer, about your purpose. So we know it's service because you're here. We know it's leadership because you're here. I like to think about what it would take for me to be a good ancestor. And so I'm going to do something that might seem a little strange. I'm going to talk to a group of young people about what it is to be a good ancestor. But I'll tell you why. If you think about your legacy, the impact that you want to make on the world, now's the perfect time. We don't wait until we are, in our last days, taking our last breath to really get serious about our legacy and impact, right? We think about it and we get clear about it while we can do something about it. And so I think this is the perfect time to talk about it. So when I think about me, Tulane, being a good ancestor, I think about, how can I live and what can I do that creates opportunities or inspiration or examples for generations that come decades after me, right? Indigenous communities have always talked about 7 generations, that you plant trees that you'll never see grow, because you want 7 generations behind you to have the benefit of that tree, right? And so I would encourage all of you, and if any of you want to share in the chat, please do. When you think about some of the legacies that you want to leave, what are those legacies? When you think about your children's children's children, what are the things that you want to leave for them? And it's not too early to be thinking about that. This is actually the perfect time, right? Because now is when you can actually do something about those ideas and intentions. So, I think about good ancestors. I think about some folks who are famous. I think about Maya Angelou. I think about John Lewis. I think about Che Guevara. I think about Toni Morrison. I think about people who have chosen to live their lives and to create in a way that has given me something that helps me today, even though they never met me and in many cases are long gone. But I also think about my grandmother, Luella Reed. I think about my great-grandmother in Louisiana, Deanna March Jacobs. And I think about the people in my family who lived in a way that created a space for me to not only exist, but thrive. And so when you think about who are your good ancestors? And I'd love for you to put some of their names in the chat if you could. It's important, I believe, to remember and to lift up and name our good ancestors when we talk about service and leadership. Martin Luther King is a good ancestor, right? That's an example. Nelson Mandela is a good ancestor. So when you think about good ancestors, both those who are famous and well-known and those who are known perhaps only to you in this room, please lift up their names, put their names in the chat so that we can really root our conversation today in understanding what it is to be a good ancestor. Because I'm inviting you to prepare to be a good ancestor, not to prepare for your death. I'm not saying that, but to prepare for an impact that will benefit generations long after you. Am I making sense? I'm looking around the screen. I'm seeing some thumbs up, some head nods, some hearts. Okay, beautiful. All right, and I'm seeing some names of ancestors: Malcolm X, Frank Leonard, Harriet Tubman, John Lawrence, my grandmothers. Absolutely. Keep on putting the names of your good ancestors in the chat, because I believe, and this is Tulane's belief, I don't want to infringe on anybody's belief system, but I believe that when we lift up and name and honor our good ancestors, that to whatever degree they can help us with what we're trying to do today, they do. That's my belief. So Frederick Douglass, I love it. I love it. Keep putting these good ancestors' names in the chat. And again, it doesn't have to be someone we all know. They can still be a good ancestor. Okay, so what does it mean to be a good ancestor? You're creating something that will benefit those who come after you. You're working on it now as a young leader because you want to use your life and focus your life so that when your life comes to a close many, many, many decades from now, right, you can look back and say, I did something good, and people will call on me and lift my name up in the decades long after my life. But in order to do that, you have to have a vision. And so let's talk a little bit about what are the elements of a vision. See, one thing that is true, and I love this, actually my grandmother first said this to me, Luella Reed. She said, some people live 90 years. Some people just live 1 year 90 times. I'm going to say that again, and then I'll explain it a little more clearly if it's not immediately clear. Some people live 90 years, live a long life, and some people just live 1 year over and over 90 times. Now, what I mean by that is, and what my grandmother meant when she shared that with me, is that unless you have a vision that guides your movements, your actions, your choices, that it is easy, particularly in this modern world we live in, to just kind of be busy, but not really doing that much. You know, give me a shout with an emoji if you know what I'm talking about. It is possible to be busy, doing a lot of things, being at a lot of meetings, going to a lot of community events, helping and counseling a lot of people, but to not necessarily be moving towards something greater. I see some emojis. You don't know, you understand me. So the way to avoid that fate is to have a vision. And so I want to talk to you a bit about what a vision is, because see, here's the thing. I believe that this group, you all, are so powerful. You're so brave. You're so connected. I know this because I know YouthBuild, and I can feel it even though we're not in the same room. You are powerful. And you know, there's a word that says where two or more are gathered, right? That is a powerful gathering. And you are too. You all are all over the globe, deeply connected and aligned with shared values. So you all are powerful. So the clearer you are about vision, the more you can literally change the world. This is not me giving you just a pep talk. This is the truth. This is absolutely true. So think about vision. And I want to just offer some elements of vision to support you in continuing the work of clarifying your vision for your work, your impact, your legacy towards being a good ancestor. So one element of vision is health. I want to talk a little bit about health. There are so many stresses in our lives, in this crazy society we live in. There's so many stresses that are targeted towards you all as brilliant young people who may have come into this body, into this life as a person of color, who may have come into a part of the country or the world that is overlooked when it comes to resources, investment, and respect. And so there are so many stresses and stressors coming at you that your health is actually something that you can't take for granted, even though you have the benefit of youth. And as someone who was once young, I know that talking about health can sometimes feel like, oh, that's old people problems. That's not something I have to worry about. I'm good. You know, I can stay up all night and do what I got to do the next day, and it's not a problem. I remember those days. Roscoe, you remember those days. However, it's real. Now is the time to really think about and be protective of your health, right? And so that is not complicated. That's about movement. That's about hydration, water. No, not juice. Definitely not soda. Not even tea, y'all. Water, right? Ideally, you're drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water each day. That's the ideal because we're over 90% water. We live in a stressful environment, and so that dehydrates us. Most of us aren't getting the sleep we need to restore our bodies fully every night. And so we have a heightened need as a society for hydration. So drink your water, get your sleep. And you know the other part of that expression, mind your business. And that's the other part of it too. But we'll get to that in a moment. That's a way to avoid stress, mind your business. So the first thing is get really clear about what is your vision around health and not just what's the absence of pain, right? It's about what does thriving health look like for you? And it's different for all of us, right? Think about the shirt you're wearing. If there's a label on your shirt, it has instructions. Now, some of you have labels that say, wash in cold water, wash with light colors. Some of you have labels, some of y'all are fancy and you have labels that say dry clean only, right? All of you have different care instructions for the clothing that you're wearing. I believe we as humans, we all have different care instructions for what it means to really take good care of ourselves and our health. So that is an intimate, personal set of decisions that you have to come to, but I'm encouraging you as part of our time together today to get precise and clear and bold about what your thriving health looks like. And if any of you already have some ideas of what that means to you, put it in the chat if you haven't already. I'm older than y'all, so I have a hard time doing the talk and chat. I'm not as good at that as many of you, but I'm gonna try to get in there. Without a vision, even a blind man, with the vision, even a blind man can see. Amen, Melissa, you ain't wrong. So put in the chat, what thriving health looks like to you, right? I'll give you an example of one element of thriving health for me. Thriving health for me is that I have the energy I need to wake up in the morning, have my spiritual practice, and go out in the day, give, serve, create, and be energized throughout the day. Not have a 2:30 energy slump, not need caffeine or sugar to get me through, that I can be free from dependency on other stimulants to have sustained energy. That's one of my definitions. But what's yours? And share it in the chat, please do. And create communities of support around your vision for thriving health. So health is one element of your vision. The other element of your vision is relationships. And when I say relationships, I don't just mean romantic, though that's fine too. But what kind of people do you want to be around day to day? What kind of experiences do you want to have with other people to have a life where you feel that you are witnessed, loved, supported, and protected? Now, this is key. Now, here's the thing. If you are around a bunch of people who are always telling you that you're the very best thing, they ain't never met nobody like you, they're so blown away by what you do, that's cool. But I would argue you might need to expand your network to include some folks who stretch you more than you would without them. You see what I'm saying? I've had times in my life where I've surrounded myself with people who I love, who love me, but who are completely satisfied with me doing exactly what I was always doing. Good people, they don't mean me any harm, but they're not going to push me. They're not going to say, Tulaine, you've been talking about writing that book for a long time. What's up with it? They're not going to say, Tulaine, you say you want to have energy all day, but I see you drinking 4 cups of coffee in the morning. You sure about that? They're not going to hold me accountable to the things I say I want for myself. They're just glad I'm around. Now, listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that kind of love. That's a beautiful relationship to have. But I would encourage you all as service-oriented leaders to also include in your network people who, by the way they live, inspire you, or who by their actions inspire you, and who help hold you accountable to growing and evolving in your lives. Am I making sense? Give me some kind of emoji or head nod if you're following me. Okay, I'm seeing some snaps, some head nods, some smiles, thumbs up. Okay, now this is important. And I wanna be clear with you. This is not about thinking you're better than somebody. This is not about judging people. That's not what I'm saying. But I will say to you that I lost some opportunities to receive support and help because I didn't want to seem like I was trying to be too big or shine too bright. And so I don't want you all to waste any of your precious time with that lie. I want you to know that if you actively pursue relationships and experiences that push you to be your best self and expand beyond where you are, that doesn't mean you don't love everybody. It just means that you love yourself enough to support your own growth and development. Okay. So vision includes definition for thriving health. It also includes definition for thriving, connected, supportive relationships that enable development and accountability. The other element of your vision that I want you to make sure you're continuing to refine, let's talk about it. It is money. Okay. What is your relationship with money? Now, here's the thing, y'all. We live in a time, it's always been true that human beings are tempted to compare our lives to one another, right? That has, I would say, never been more true than it is today. I have so much respect and compassion for all of you who have grown up in the era of, social media, where people can tell whatever story they want about their life, and you're meant to consume it. It's really, really, it's quite a time to be alive. And so I believe that it's important not to keep up with the Joneses, not to worry about the Birkin bags and all that stuff, all that mess. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what kind of economic resource do you want and need in your life to have the choices that you would like for yourself and your loved ones, period. And just like before, we talked about health being very intimate and personal and varied. All of you will have different definitions of what thriving health looks like for you. You'll all have different definitions of what thriving economics and thriving finances looks like for you. And that's appropriate. That's as it should be. I'm not saying to go pursue these kind of like, God, almost rabid capitalist consumer culture that's out there. It's not about buying as much as you can. It's not about labels. That's not what I'm talking about. But to the degree that we live in this capitalist society at this time, even though we're all over the globe, globalization means that everybody who's on this call, and that's pretty remarkable. Everyone on this call, even though we're from all over the world, because of globalization, we live in some form or derivative of capitalism, right? So we all have been taught and trained to consume and buy, consume and buy. I'm talking about liberating ourselves from that message and getting clear with ourselves about, what do I want from my life? What do I really want? What do I really want to do to protect and support people I love? And that may be as simple as, I want to make sure that I live in a place where I can get access to healthy foods easily. It could be just that simple, right? But getting clear about it is important, because otherwise, y'all, you're just following the guidance and pressure of capitalism, which is to buy and to buy and to buy, whether you need it or not, whether you even want it or not, and certainly whether you can afford it or not, right? Am I making sense? I need a little feedback. Okay, I see some heads non snapping. All right, all right, all right. So far, we're talking about our vision because we want to be good ancestors, and we know now's the time to do the work to be a good ancestor. And so in order to be a good ancestor, we need to have a clear vision for our lives. And we're talking now about the elements of a vision. We talked about health. We talked about relationships. We talked about money. And so the last piece I want to talk about is vocation. Now, what do I mean by vocation? I mean what you create. And sometimes the word create and creator and creative, it's sort of reduced to performing arts or media, right? I'm not only talking about, do you sing, do you dance, do you do visual art? What do you create? Are you somebody who loves to make delicious, healthy meals for yourself and people you love? Are you someone who creates environments where, are you like Lex, you can, even if it's virtual and global, I don't care. I can create a space where people feel connected and welcome. You know what I mean? Like, what is it that you create? And how can you make opportunities to do that thing you love to create in your life? And I don't care if it's knitting, making pies, teaching people how to move their bodies to be healthy, creating welcoming spaces, holding people accountable. It could be anything. Again, it's highly intimate and personal to you. But what I'm encouraging you to do is to get specific and clear and bold in your vision for what your creative gift is. Now, what I know you all share as part of your creative gift is leadership and service, right? All of you are here because leadership and service is part of what you want to create and give to the world. So get precise about it. Right? Hey, recording in progress. So get precise about it. Okay, I know I'm coming up on time. So again, quick recap. I used to be a classroom teacher. I can't help it. So just bear with me. I want to make sure that when we close, that you can take something with you that's of use to you. So again, we are all here committed to service and leadership, which means that we are committed to becoming good ancestors. And that means we're doing the work today, right? It's not too early to be talking about that. And it's not morbid. I'm not talking about death. I'm talking about life, right? And the quality of life and the impact of life. We talked about the importance of vision. And we also talked about how it's really important, especially for y'all, because you are leaders and because you are committed to service. I think that you have to have a vision that is so strong and bold because you're going against the tide, right? If you were just going to do what's already laid out for you, you wouldn't be thinking about other people. You'd be trying to figure out how to just consume as much as you can for you and maybe a few people who are in your inner circle, and that'd be about it, right? But you said, no, I want something greater for me and for others and for the world. So it's so important you have a vision because that vision is going to protect you when the times get tough, right? And the times get tough. People doubt you, they disappoint you. Something happens that you didn't expect that takes your resources away. A health challenge arises. Our hearts get broken. Life is good, but it is not easy. Do people agree with that? It is precious, it is good, but it is not easy. And so the clearer you are about your vision, the more you can have an anchor that roots you each and every day. So that's why I wanted to talk to you a little bit about vision. Now, I was invited to join you all today by your friend and mine, Shauna. And so I know that timing is limited, and I know we're also on Zoom. But I also know that me just talking at you for the entire time just doesn't quite feel right to me. So I don't know how this is going to go, y'all. It's a live show. But I do wonder if anybody would like to maybe lift up one of two things. If you either want to talk a bit about a good ancestor who maybe you named in the chat, or if you have a question for me about something I said, or if there's just something that's on your heart that you want to share with your community about vision. So I want to open it up and let's just see how it goes. And Shauna, you'll help me if it, if it don't go right,
I got you, girl.
Okay. So Jacob, I see a hand up. Jacob.
Hey guys, I'm Jacob. I represent California Heritage YouthBuild Academy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say one of my ancestors, I'll elaborate on that. I said Frank Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
That is my my grandpa, not great grandpa. He was a CB in World War II, which is it's a division of the Navy, their construction, basically.
Uh-huh.
So he was a machinist. His particular job was building tanks and stuff. But him and his crew, they deployed out in Japan.
Mm.
And this was after Pearl Harbor, and they would island hop. That was one of the strategies in World War II, was they would island hop just to keep the enemy on their toes. And they would literally drop like a bunch of construction workers off on an island to clear out the islands, and not of enemies because they were already barren, but of like trees and stuff so they can make a base. And they built like just like little huts and stuff there and bridges and stuff. But they dropped them off, so they had no guards. There were one or two people with guns, and the enemy flanked the island and ended up killing every single one of the CBs on the island and shot my grandpa in the head, but it grazed his skull. And he ended up laying down along the side of a tractor bucket and playing dead. And he had blood on his head, so he just laid still, and they thought he was dead because he had blood on his head. And he was the only one left. But that's actually kind of the reason I got into YouthBuild, was because of his construction experience.
Wow.
So
Wow. Thank you for lifting him up, Jacob. Thank you for lifting him up. It's important, right? And imagine the courage and resourcefulness it took to, in the midst of that kind of trauma and violence, figure out a survival strategy.
Yeah.
Brilliant, right? Brilliant and painful and brilliant, right?
Yeah.
It's incredible what we humans figure out when we're forced to. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to hear your voice. Good to meet you. Any other, we have a few more minutes. I'd love to hear other voices, either an ancestor that you'd like to lift up, like Jacob just modeled for us, or something that is sort of churning for you in terms of a question from me. I welcome pushback. I'm very comfortable with it. Like I said, I've
Eu posso
been part of the
falar?
YouthBuild community for a long time, so it's all good. I thought I heard a voice.
Can I say something here?
You're getting a lot of love in the chat too for sharing your ancestors, your good ancestor story. Thank you. I'm scanning. Yeah.
Tulaine, I don't know if I just heard one of the translators.
Hugo wants
Yeah,
to
go-
say something.
Go ahead, Hugo.
Oh,
Via
please.
translation. Yeah, go ahead.
Olá,
Hola.
olá,
Hi,
pessoal.
hello, hi everyone. I am from Brazil. First of all, I'd like to thank Tulaine for her presentation. She presented so many important points for us young people, young leaders. And I have a reference, an ancestor, a Brazilian writer. Her name is Carolina Maria de Jesus. I didn't include her in the chat. She wrote a book called Quarto de Despejo, My Room, and for her book to become an outstanding piece of literature in Brazil. Brazil is a country that has enormous inequalities and an enormous housing scarcity, and there's a lot of lack for many people, lack of housing for many people. And she did not, she was not able to conclude her schooling. And so she studied until about the 5th grade or something. And this book of hers is her diary, where she reported her daily life as a single mother in a favela, in a slum in Brazil, in the city of São Paulo. Carolina Maria de Jesus wrote this book, this diary, in 1965. And when I read it last year, I saw how Brazil is still very similar. The Brazil 2021 is still so similar to Brazil 1965. I was identified myself and my family in her diary, and how she influenced me in preparing for my entrance college exam, and all the information that she didn't have access to, and other youth who live you know, in my environment, were not able to access. So it's about this book about, in English, I think it's called The Trash Room, and other youth who did not have the opportunity. So this is the point that I would like to present Carolina Maria de Jesus as an ancestral reference.
Ashe. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. It's so powerful to lift up these ancestors, Carolina, Frank, right? To lift them up and to reflect on what they gave us, right? You can feel it. You can feel it. And as leaders who've made a commitment to service and to making this world better at a time when the world and humanity is in desperate need of help, it's so important that we call on these resources that are everywhere. And sometimes it feels like we're on our own, right? But look at this community, look at this circle, and feel how powerful it is to reflect on, remember, and then name these good ancestors. Beautiful, beautiful story, Hugo. Thank you so much. Brandon, I see your hand.
Hey, y'all. You know, something that I would like to share is I'm a community organizer here in New York City, and I have been on the front lines of a lot of the things that we've been seeing happen in the news. in regards to what has been happening to Black people at the hands of state actors. And something that I, brought up a lot at my actions, because I often found myself in the place where Malcolm X was assassinated. I passed that place more than once a week. And it's the Audubon Ballroom uptown in Washington Heights. But, there's a famous picture of Malcolm laying there after he was assassinated. And what a lot of people don't know is that picture was actually cropped. And there was a woman by the name of Yuri Kochiyama that was holding his head after that had happened. And, it blew me away because in a time in which we're living, in which a lot of oppressed communities are fighting right now for their liberation, Black people especially, I just found it very interesting how we as young Black people have been brought up in an educational system in which we are not told the truth behind our history. And upon finding out that Yuri was actually a part of that picture, and they cropped that picture out so that it could further perpetuate this divide that goes amongst oppressed communities, I got really angry. So, I think about what Malcolm has taught a lot of people, what Malcolm has said, and I think about what I can do as an organizer here in New York to put a stop to that. You know what I'm saying? To put a stop to what people are believing and what the truth actually is. So with that, I started something. I was a member of a group of people that started a mutual aid project in one of the biggest parks in the city called Washington Square Park. It's a big activist central, so a lot of protests start out of there. But something that happens in that park a lot is there's a big houseless community. And with that, there's also a big problem with the opioid epidemic in New York City. So a year after me graduating out of YouthBuild, I became an EMT. So I'm actively an EMT right now. And something that I do is every Friday I go to that park and I do Narcan trainings. Right. Unfortunately, there has been several incidents in which I've had to use the Narcan real time. But, I'm realizing that I'm starting to plant these seeds of hope into my community, after getting out of YouthBuild. Like I thought I had it all together before I got to YouthBuild, and I got to YouthBuild and got a real quick gut check. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. But the staff at YouthBuild kind of, well, not kind of, did sit us down and were able to point out, the skills and the abilities that we have and how we can use those things and how we can manipulate those skills and abilities to do what we want to do. So now I am a founding member of Washington Square Park Mutual Aid. And, every Friday we're out in the community, doing things. We're out in the community doing what our ancestors did, right? And rejecting capitalism almost every single day. It's unfortunate that we have to live in a capitalist society, especially living in New York City where everything is expensive. But it's just another thing that is being done to push this new age that is happening before us.
Thank you so much, Brandon. And I know there's so much more we could share. We've come up against the constraint of time. But I think that, Brandon, you talked about when you learned how you and how we have been intentionally misled, bamboozled, to quote Brother Malcolm, right? How it created anger in you. And, anger is a legitimate, reasonable feeling. I think how long you hold anger that, we have to consider, because it does have an impact on our health and our bodies if it's sustained and embodied over time. But what does it mean to say, that thing that infuriated me, that deception, what I'm going to do with that is turn its alternative and put it into my vision. So for example, I'm hearing from you, Brandon, that you are committed to understanding the true history of your people and understanding, including in that, the ways that people of different identity groups that are often pitted against each other, certainly in the US, but also globally, to just reject that. So the idea that Black people and people of Asian descent, that we have to be in this conflict, that there's never been a place where we have partnered to advance justice and opportunity for all, that's a lie. And so when that lie was exposed to you, I hear that you put as part of your vision, whether you called it that or not, you put that you are committed to understanding your history and drawing from the places where people of different identities partnered for justice. And that's brilliant. You know, I saw in the chat, let me see, you guys are in the chat. Okay, here we go. Where'd it go? Jocelyn, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, talked about lifting up Big Mama and Papa, that they were the glue of the family, missing the nurturing and fellowship. Well, here's the thing about vision. You know, our visions are determined by what we see that we want, and also where we long for something that we're missing, right? So when you feel that longing, when you feel that sadness about something that you once had that no longer exists, or that you see someone else have that you feel like you want and deserve in your own life, you can pull that into your vision. That's a source of genius. So where can you be the glue? Where can you offer the nurturing that you're longing for, that your good ancestors provided for you? And that's not directed just to you, Jocelyn. That's what we as human beings who have committed to leadership and service, that's a question that we get to ask ourselves basically every day. This is not a place where you arrive. This is a place where you commit and you stay on the path. So with that, I just want to thank you all genuinely. I so appreciate your time and your energy. I appreciate your service and your leadership. This has given me far more than I've given you, and I mean that. The days can be long and busy and sometimes difficult, and this is such a touchstone and gift for me. So I just want to appreciate all of you.